a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess, yeah. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess, yes. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. I'm trying, I'm crying, I feel like I'm dying. I'm doing my best.
So welcome everybody. I am Stacy, along with my lovely co-host. Almost said love of my lovely co-host Anita. I'm Stacy, and this is Melissa, and we are the vlogcast Being Human and Other Shit. We have a really, really exciting interview we're doing today that I personally am super excited. I know Melissa's super excited about. We have Anita and Jaden. So yes, I'm going to let Melissa kind of take over at this point.
So before we even get started, I really want to just express such deep gratitude for just the responses we've been getting and the feedback we've been getting from the few episodes that we have rolled out so far. Really, we're nothing like special. I mean, to each other we are. But really, the whole point of this is just to listen to different perspectives, be kind and understanding toward different perspectives, different things that are different than we're used to seeing in this world that is crazy. Mm-hmm. So we really do appreciate all of the feedback and positive, just the positivity that has been coming at us from the very beginning, I think, even from episode 1. So
thank you for being patient with our angles.
Yeah. And I'm sure audio is going to hopefully evolve over time too. So our goal really, again, is just to listen to people's stories. I think there's a lot of power in our stories, the stories we decide to share with each other. And there's a lot of people that for some reason can't use their voice or don't use their voice to talk about their stories. They're not in a safe space. So I want to make sure that Stacy and I are always creating a safe space for people to tell their stories. And hopefully, even if it's one person that needed to hear that story, then we've done what we've set out to do. So that's pretty much it. I want to introduce my cousin's child and my cousin. It's Jaden and Anita. So today, Jaden is going to take us through, and Anita, they're going to take us through really Jaden's trans journey. I don't know if there's a better way to say it or how you like to express it, but really just want you to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. Really not just about your trans journey, but about you. What do you like? What do what are some activities that you're involved in? We're keeping in mind that you are a 14-year-old young man, and so we will try and watch our naughty little mouths today.
Do my best.
We'll do our best. But tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your journey.
My name is Jaden. I'm 14. I'm going to be going into high school in August, right? In August. And I like playing video games, riding bikes, and I've started making music, but I'm not very good at it.
What? We got a Pharrell? We got a Pharrell on our hands? I'm feeling it. It's funny, we like all the same activities, Jaden.
It doesn't matter that you're not good at it, as long as you have a good time doing it.
That's right.
That's pretty much it.
You want to take pictures?
Yeah, I'm trying to become a photographer when I get older.
Nice.
Love it.
Good goal.
And then Anita, if you could just speak to a little bit of the socioeconomic status of your family. So your educational background, your occupation, different things, just so people can get an idea of, the socioeconomic status.
So we're middle class. I'm 36 and married to Jaden's dad. I'm a teacher, so college educated, teach middle school. As far as race goes, I mean, Jaden is a partially Hispanic. I'm half Hispanic. Dad's white.
pretty much as wide as they go.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like Jaden's pretty lucky. We we have everything that we need as far as, you know, roof over our heads, clothes on our backs, food in our bellies. So
It's a beautiful message, Anita.
So Jaden, can you just tell us a little bit about like when you started to realize that you were not in the right body, or you were born in the wrong body?
When I was little, I never really liked girly stuff. Like I didn't like having long hair, or like I didn't like pink, even though that's not like a girl color, but I just didn't like pink. And I think I was about like 8 when I realized that like something was off, and that like I didn't feel as comfortable in my own body. But I didn't start like knowing until I was like around 10.
How did you, I mean, obviously all the stuff you just described, but when was it like trans was not, I don't want to say an option, but I actually prefaced, I think, with everybody before we started the interview about Jaden really letting Melissa and I know with stuff that we're saying, if it's offensive, if it's not appropriate terminology, for the purpose of not only educating us, but educating whoever will watch this. So how did you know like trans was an option? Did you ever think like, I'm kind of just stuck in this body forever?
I think when I got my own phone when I was like what, 10?
Yeah.
And so I was like on YouTube one day, and then I saw this trans creator, and I like watched one of their videos, and I really like related to what they were talking about and how they felt. And then that's when I realized, oh, this is what I've been feeling. I actually have a definition for it now.
Wow.
And so
That's really cool.
That's empowering. And I think that this, sorry to interrupt you, Stacey.
No, you're fine.
But I think it's like, this is also why I'm excited for you to be on here, because you got that representation from somebody else. So I'm hoping that even if one person sees you today, that you're the representation that somebody else may have needed. So that gets me a little bit emotional, but
I know, right? Like we did that episode where we talked about, you know, our experiences, and there wasn't a lot of representation. So that's really cool that it was a creator that you saw. And, you know, like Melissa said, you could be that person next.
well, it's so hard because it's not talked about enough. So it's like, how do you know what you don't know?
Yeah.
When you're this young, how do you put words into what you're feeling when it's never been explained to you before? And so, I mean, I just feel for, you know, these little children who are having these feelings, and the only way that they know how to explain it or verbalize it is, you know, through actions and being consistent with, and insistent and persistent. That's one thing you'll hear all the time with these types of journeys is they're consistent, they're insistent, they're persistent with how they feel.
So when did you start to, I know Jaden really around 10, it started to set in pretty heavily for you, but Anita, when did you start to like notice Jaden expressing that he didn't feel like the sex he was assigned at birth?
After I had Jackson. So when Jaden was 8, not long after I had Jackson, he wanted to cut his hair like a pixie cut, like super short. And we're like, okay. So we have pictures of when Jackson was, you know, a couple months old, and Jaden had this short pixie haircut. And I just remember coming home, the smile on Jaden's face with that short haircut. Like, and I didn't know then. I didn't know. He didn't know, maybe. I don't know, maybe he did. But like, I didn't know. And so I was just like, oh, he's so happy with his haircut. Like, it was so crazy. But then, you know, later on, as we continued and we started this journey, all these things that would happen or had happened really just started to make sense. Oh, this is why. Like he mentioned, he never played with like certain toys. He didn't like the color pink. I mean, it was spy toys. It was guns. It was don't put me in a dress. It was I want to wear pants or shorts. And I was just like, oh, he's a tomboy. He's a tomboy. We didn't, as parents, know. So, I just think that for him, it started a lot earlier than we even knew. The signs were there. We just didn't know what they meant.
Yeah. Oh, Melissa, you muted yourself.
My yard people just came. I was trying to be quiet. So I know that in our own family, there was not any representation of that. There's nothing around. So it's like, I'm glad, Jaden, that you were able to, find something that resonated with you. But Anita, I'm also curious, like for parents that may be watching this as well, like how did you really know Jaden identified as trans and not like another gender identity? So like just, non-binary, gender fluid.
Yeah.
Like how did that unfold for you?
So it wasn't something I, figured out on my own. When Jaden came to us, and I think it was before he was 10, I think he was 9. And he came to us with, he didn't want to be called his name anymore. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And this whole conversation started, and I thought it was like, honestly, I thought it was like a phase. I thought he was jealous of his little brother. I just had a baby boy and maybe there's this jealousy thing or whatever. So I was like, no, in my head, I'm talking with Dad and I'm just like, no, all this doubt. And so the first thing we thought that we needed to do was to get him to a therapist who could make some sense out of it, because we had no idea of what to do. And so it was about 6 months after he was seeing the therapist, we expressed to her that we need to know, is this a thing? Is this a phase? Is this truly what he thinks it is? Like, we don't know what to think. And so after 6 months, she was like, I'm going to start calling Jaden Jaden in therapy, and I'm going to start using, he, him pronouns in therapy. And so, this is what we've talked about. And the therapist was really nice with saying, as parents, we have to do this on our own time as well. It's not easy as a parent to handle sometimes. And so she just let us know that, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. I want you to know. I want you to be aware. And then you can talk to Jaden about it and see, what we want to do. So it took Dad and I some time. We definitely took it in steps. So we didn't start with the name change. Did we start with the name?
I think
Was the name and then the pronouns?
I think it was the pronouns first.
Pronouns first. And that's a whole story of its own. I still sometimes mess up. I mean, we're 6 years, almost 6 years in, and I still sometimes make mistakes. But yeah.
That's something that I think Melissa and I have talked about too, where that's for me where I get hung up. Where sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, and it's not meant to be offensive. It's just where, but side note, can I just say, because like you, Anita and Keith blow my mind. Like to like Jaden, to have parents
being decent human beings.
And isn't that sad that I have to say that shit? Like, it's Jaden, like, I think, I'm sure you've already feel this way, but like to have parents that you even feel comfortable enough to go talk to at that young, super young age, and your mom and dad really try their hardest. Like, oh man, that like makes me so emotional, because you know, Melissa and I have gone through our own stuff, and like obviously her experience has been different than mine and your experience has been different than mine, but like to just from jump have your mom say like, and your dad say, we're going to not only like try our best, but we're also going to get you professional help, because this is kind of outside of like our spectrum of what we can do. Like seriously, hats off to you guys, because I can't imagine like birthing a child, period, but also like birthing a child and then putting them in this like box of what I think they need to be for the society's convenience or my family's convenience. So kudos to you is what I'm basically trying to say.
Yeah. And I think Jaden too, you're just such a kind human. And so I really hope that as you get older, you navigate this world carrying that privilege with you, that you know that, you know, you understand the privilege that you have. And I feel like just knowing who you are, you're gonna do something really wonderful with that privilege. So, but kudos, I give kudos as well to Keith and Anita. I think that you guys are doing awesome, and really just from the perspective of being in the family with you guys, it was just very much loving and like straightforward. Anita, I just remember you coming up and saying, "Hey, Jaden we're calling Jaden he, he, him." So like, I think that it was just really a beautiful thing. And can you talk, because I only know my interaction with it, but can you both of you talk a little bit about like the support system, and as you were coming into yourself, Jaden, what did that look like around you? How did the family react to it? Friends, school? I'd love to hear about how that unfolded.
You want to talk about that first, or me?
Talk about your family and friends first.
So the family was pretty supportive. They still mess up sometimes, but like everybody messes up, and I know that they don't mean it. Like especially family members that have only known me from before or that don't see me as often. So, and I know it's hard for them too, but and friends, all my friends like that I have now support me. Like they're awesome. And when I first discovered that I was trans, I told my friend in second grade, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe you do you, I guess." And so that was
Love it.
Man, you do you. That's
changed a little. That's awesome. And family, you feel like was pretty open and understanding and taking that in. And then what do you like as far as, because again, to excuse my ignorance, I like what, as far as access to care, what was available? Even from the beginning of finding a therapist that was like experienced with the trans community, or were they not? I don't know. And then what kind of healthcare was available as you started to transition? I'm sure that there's hormone therapy and different things involved. Can you guys talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think we were really lucky. Of course, with insurance, you know, mental health is one of the things that's covered. So we didn't have like any extra out-of-pocket costs than anybody normally would going to a doctor. We found our therapist, you know, just on a provider list. She was listed as a therapist that also, you know, dealt with children. It didn't say specifically, you know, that she dealt with this type of particular situation, but we're like, okay, well, we'll just see what happens. So we got really lucky with her. Jaden still sees her every month. And so that wasn't an issue that we ever had. We were really lucky because she referred us to the gender clinic in San Francisco, which is where Jaden goes a couple times a year because Jaden does do hormone therapy. Mm-hmm. So we had to get started at UCSF's gender clinic for his appointments out there. And that doctor specializes in, you know, the whole transitioning, the hormone therapy. So Jade and all that was covered under our insurance as well. I mean, we had co-pays that we have to pay or whatever, but there's nothing additional out of pocket. We didn't have to, pay as a cash patient or something like that. He's had a hormone blocker that was put in when he was 12 to keep the female hormones at bay. That's the best way, I guess we can put it. And then in order to, because this is relatively still new, they don't have a whole lot of research on the effects of the hormone blocker and what happens later on in adulthood and how that might affect somebody physically. What if they change their minds and they decide they aren't who they thought they were, and then they want to have children or something like that. So, we had to sign a lot of papers and do all that good stuff. But yeah, the hormone blocker he had in, it was good for 2 years, and then he had to get it out, and then he got another hormone blocker in, which was just recent. And then after that, they said, okay, well, now we have to start you on T. So testosterone started a year ago. 2 years ago? 2 years ago. When they said that normally other boys go through puberty was when they decided he could be put on it. We're really lucky because in some states they cannot go on this type of hormone therapy before a certain age, even with parental consent. So Jaden, he went to camp a couple years ago, and there were some kids there, and they're like, gosh, you're so lucky that you get to do that therapy because it's not allowed in our state. So that was eye-opening for me. But the gender clinic was a godsend. I am so thankful that we found them. They have a whole team of just specialists, doctors, to help us. And, they'll do video visits if we can't make it out to San Francisco. They're easy to talk to over the phone. But yeah, it's not something that you'll find everywhere. It's definitely, one of those resources that we're really lucky to have. They don't have it here, but at least they have it there.
Yeah, and San Francisco is not too far from all of us. And also to all the California haters, our state's allowing people to be who they are, our kids to be who they are. Because I feel like lately there's been so much California hate, and this, to shine a positive light, our state is allowing Jaden to live like his best life, and I love that.
Was that super exciting for you, Jaden, to get to start testosterone?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like it.
That would be a milestone. Yeah.
I mean, to really just start to feel more and more like your authentic self. So that's awesome. And I know that that's a heavy weight to carry, knowing that you have this privilege. But again, it's like you should never feel bad for it. But I think that thinking about other people that don't have health insurance, right, or don't have resources like Anita was speaking to, that is just, I can't even imagine. My heart just breaks for people that are just wandering around this world, not able to live their authentic selves because of our healthcare system.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yeah. What even are community resources for other people that
Austin has San Joaquin Pride, and I'm sure you dealt with them for that one event that you did, but I'm not sure as far as financially what kind of supports that they have, for kids like Jaden.
Yeah. And then for you, Anita, just to kind of piggyback off the therapy. So is therapy or seeking professional help for support for you and Keith and and your other son? I don't know if he's at that age, but has that been something that you guys have gone through too, family counseling, or would you recommend it to maybe families who would listen?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't see her. Keith and I don't see her. We saw her at the beginning, the two of us, just because we had some questions, and of course, we had to deal with things that parents would deal with that not necessarily would be something Jaden would have to worry about. So we did meet with her once at the beginning of the transition to like help us with questions that we had that we didn't want to burden Jaden with or things like that. But every time that she sees Jaden, she always just has a little chat with me and makes sure that we don't need anything. But she's always there, you know, she's always open to like, hey, you know, let me know if you and Keith want to talk. So, I mean, I think it's good for anybody. I don't care who you are, like just to talk to somebody about anything, about your job, whatever it is. Like, we need that. We all need that.
I feel like the kind of common consensus I hear from, like, good example, I have someone in my family who just talked to me about their child and them being a part of the community and, you know, identifying, you know, the same way I do. But that was one of my questions, like, how are you doing? Because I don't think it's like every parent who is kind of in shock at first or feeling scared or sad or whatever they're feeling. I don't think it's like, I don't love my child and I don't want my child to be accepted. It's probably, I mean, I'd imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, because Melissa and I are not parents. It's probably an immediate, like, who's going to be mean to my kid? Who's going to treat my kid? Who's going to show prejudice and discrimination towards my child? I mean, I think that God did not bless me with kids because I'd probably be in jail because I'm crazy like that. But like, you know, I can't even imagine the stuff that Jaden's had to deal with and that the community's had to deal with.
Well, yeah, it started with school. We were really shocked. We had to change Jaden's school after he transitioned. A lot of times, kids will transition and they'll start at a new school right away. But Jaden didn't want to do that. What did you want to do?
I wanted to stay with my friends, because some of my friends did support me, but a lot of the other kids didn't, and even a lot of the boys didn't. Most of the girls were fine, but a lot of the guys were always giving me a hard time. And even the principal wouldn't like let me use the bathroom that I wanted to is.
That's one of my questions too. Like, what did that look like? Because now, like in your school that you're at now, are there gender neutral restrooms, or you are just comfortable and the school is okay with where you're at now? Because now you are a boy, right?
Yeah. So I use the boys' restroom at school, and the only like gender non-conforming bathroom that they have is the staff restroom. And so that's the one that I had to use at my old school because they didn't want me going in the boys' restroom and I didn't want to go in the girls' restroom. So I would have to, like, if I were outside at recess, I would have to walk into the building, which was like very far away from the place where recess was, and then go up the stairs and then like use the staff restroom. And it was just too much because it's just a long way. Yeah.
So like, this is one of the things where when you don't know what you don't know. So me and Keith were not very educated with the laws around transgender rights. And so when Jaden transitioned at his elementary school, the first question was, where is he going to use the restroom at? And the principal said, okay, well, we have these staff restrooms here and here, and this is what he can use. And we were like, okay, sounds good. And then a few months later, after I was becoming educated with everything, we find that a couple years before, there was an assembly bill passed that says that students should be able to use the bathroom of the gender that they are identifying with. And so we had to have like a meeting with the principal and the teacher. And I'm like, why was this not an option for us? Why is it that you just said use the staff restroom? And he was like, well, we just thought it would be better for everybody if Jaden used the staff restroom. And I became an emotional parent at that point, and I was just like, so my kid has, you know, a 10-minute recess, and he's supposed to run inside to the bathroom, worry about being questioned by teachers who maybe don't know about the situation, have to explain himself. You know, he's losing out on his recess time, and that's not equitable.
Yeah.
And so we had a really hard time with the staff there not being supportive. And that's when we kind of decided to move him schools for his last year in elementary school.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense too, because I would even imagine just like logistically, most staff, you know, as you and I know, for me, my staff bathrooms on my campus are locked. Teachers have it.
Yeah.
You know, and those teachers don't have a right to know that. That's not their business unless Jaden or you as his parent choose to share that. You know, there's certain things for me as a special ed teacher, I know about families because it's in their IEP, but if a student doesn't have that, I'm not entitled to know anything about their personal medical history.
Yeah, it was really eye-opening for me to see that, you know, these adults were acting in this manner. And I'm just like, you know, I was upset about it. And they were just like, you know, you're too emotional. We're going to talk with dad now. Maybe that's a whole nother topic you guys can have an episode on. But yeah, I got told by the principal that I was too emotional and they only wanted to talk with dad from that point. I was like, okay.
What? Like, I can't even wrap my head around this. Like, this should not be happening at this time in our lives. We have to be far more evolved than this. We need to stop being so ignorant as a whole. It's just insane. So just to go back a little bit, like the trans community in general, like really, many of them struggle with depression and rejection and shame, and almost 50% of them, at least per my research, end up self-harming. Did you experience any of that depression? Any, if you're comfortable talking about it, self-harm or anything like that?
At the beginning, it was pretty bad. Like, I think when I first went to the therapist, she did diagnose me with depression because of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that when we started like the pronoun changing and the name changing, it went away pretty fast. And with all the like bullying at school, that was hard on my mental health too. That was loud.
Don't worry, I've done it 1,000 times.
So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, I just feel like as a whole, we need to like stop freaking gaslighting like the trans community to where they feel like they can't even exist in this world. Like, you're a human. All we want to do is like live our authentic selves. Like, why are there laws and restrictions on like being a freaking human? I can't even understand it. I don't.
Yeah. It's a lot that I think, you know, not separating church and state, people try to police our bodies. I think, yeah, to touch on that, Anita, like you said, with women, it's always easier to tell, you know, let me talk to the man in your life because the women are too emotional or the women are too whatever, when, you know, what if there's two women that have a child? Who are you going to talk to then? Another woman. How about that?
Yeah. One that's not giving them shit, I guess. Reach out to your spouse or whoever. Jaden, what is something that you want like everyone to know about the trans community? And I'll first say to everyone, Jaden is not the spokesperson for trans folks. This is not Trans 101, even though to Stacey and I it might feel a little bit like that. Yeah. And to some of you, it may feel like that. So Jaden, you don't have to carry the weight of being the spokesperson, but just you and your own experiences, what is something you would like to share with everybody, would like everybody to know about the trans community?
A lot of people think that it's just a phase. Like a lot of them see, especially younger trans people, and they think, oh, it's just a phase. When they get older, they're going to change their mind. So they shouldn't be put on like hormone therapy, stuff like that, because they're too young. And I don't think people should think that way anymore, because if your child is more comfortable in their own body when they're using different pronouns or a different name, then it's obviously not a phase, because it's making them feel better about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
I love that a lot.
Yeah. And it's also, yeah, I like how Melissa, you did say that, like, you know, just for our own coverage, like you're definitely not like the spokesperson for all trans teenagers, but like how brave for you to get on and talk about it, right? Like referencing that story in the beginning, you know, that saying those things could really impact somebody's life who watches this, not that.
I think too often sexuality and gender identity are conflated. Like it's not the same thing. Like
That's what people think. I feel like we should be like Mythbusters, you know, where people are like automatically you're supposed to know what your sexuality is because you identify, you know, there's Kitty, you know, like because you're Jaden, and that's crazy.
Yeah. And then Anita, what is something that you want parents to know about raising a trans child?
I mean, it's just like other children. When you raise other children, right? You don't know what to expect. There's no handbook. There's no, there's nothing like that. So just like with any other child, you don't know, and every child's different too. So do what's best for you and your family. Don't let other opinions affect the way you're going to raise your children and the type of care that you're going to give your child. There was plenty of things that, we heard from other family members, not that they weren't accepting, but just that they had their own opinions of like, okay, well, what about this? And what about this? And it's just like, well, we're going to do what we think is best. Mm-hmm. Even at work friends who, we would express changes to, because I have I have my work mom who I tell everything to, and she's just like the biggest support, and she's just like, you do what you need to do for that child, because what's the alternative? Mm-hmm. What's the alternative? Who knows where he would be if we didn't say, okay, let's do, we're ready. I'm not here to see what could have happened. Yes. That's not what I want. If he changes his mind, so what? We deal with that when that happens. We'll figure that out. But I'm not willing to take a risk, not on his life.
Well, because of your parenting choices and the team that you guys are, look at this, happy, healthy teenager you have, which to be honest with you, nowadays, I don't think you hear that very often, period. Mm-hmm. Like teenagers, no offense, Jaden, cover your ears, but like most teenagers are assholes,
Yeah.
And he seems awesome.
Anita's like, well, Jaden's still an asshole.
He still likes to sleep in until 1 p.m.
Same. Guess you never grow out of that.
No.
Witching hour. I also, what are some things that you wish, I mean, I know that this is still a journey, but for either of you, what are some things that you wish you would have known right out of the gate?
Probably the definition of being trans, because it would have helped me know earlier. But I think it's when I found out, it was still pretty early. Like a lot of trans people don't transition until they're older, because they didn't know when they were young, because there weren't resources mm-hmm. to figure out who they were.
Yeah.
No.
Shout out to that YouTube channel, baby.
Right. What is the definition of trans? Can you go over that with us?
In my own definition of it is not feeling comfortable in your own body, and then like changing into who you want to be. So like transitioning into your full
True self.
Mhm.
Your true self. I love that.
Mhm.
Do you feel like the community, like, what does your community look like that surrounds you? Because I know that you mentioned going to a camp. So, like, do you have a pretty strong support system around you today?
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who are a part of the community too, and so like I'll talk to them about trans stuff. And I have a friend from Brave Trails. I have a few friends from the Camp Brave Trails that I still talk to today about like stuff within the community. Um, Even though I don't see them that often because we're from like different areas. But
Thank God for social media.
Yeah, right? That's, I think, for all of us with people we love that don't live close.
Yeah, and there's also like such a point you brought up earlier too, like intervening and or stepping in early on, like that makes the world a difference for what Jaden's future is gonna look like for him. And I think that, there's a lot of, just again, I'm ignorant to the whole issue, but I think there's a lot of adults that are late 30s, 40s, 50s that then are surrounded by enough support or come into themselves enough to where they will start transitioning, and it's really, really hard. And it's unfortunately the ones that are like noticeably trans, and I think they get the shit end of the stick, to be honest, like when it comes to how they're accepted in a community where we should just be accepting everybody for who the hell they are. Like,
Yeah. Or be quiet about it.
yeah,
Shut the fuck up about it. Like, honestly, that's my opinion. I think that people who, as an opinionated person, my opinions are not ever surrounding who people should identify as, sexuality they should be, or blah 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 blah. I think that a lot of people, especially surrounding the LGBTQ plus community, I think that people always feel like they have the right to tell us how involved the community we should be, how not involved, how, like, I think who we should identify. Like, if everybody just left everybody alone, allow us to live our lives. It's not, not bothering anybody. So,
well, we like to like live in this binary world of there's male, there's female, there's you gotta box it into gay, straight. Like there's just the world is more fluid than that. There's a spectrum, and we need to stop boxing people in. Like I am so like Stacey and I have talked about this too. Like just that we're putting genders on shit that doesn't need a gender. Like from the very beginning of time, like it doesn't make any sense.
There's some cultures I heard that have like 7 different categories that people are like put into. One of them being Samoans. They have like a transgender gender. And it's just like, why is it that America has to be stuck in this zone of you were born with this, so you're this, you were born with this, so you're this. It's so much more than that. We were also born with a brain, like, and that controls so much of what we do. Like, it has nothing to do with physical features.
Yeah.
Like this makes up who we are, nothing else.
You know why, Anita? Because people are so insecure and ego-driven. They can't imagine living a life that requires them to speak up to people they love, or, whether that be friends, family, coworkers. And that's why we've said it 40 times and I'll keep saying it. That's why we're so happy to have you guys on, because it's the voices like the two of you that are going to, change people's perspectives. It's the voice that he watched how long ago that changed, was like, oh, wait a minute, this is the way I've been feeling. You know, it's the creators or the content, whether it was fictional or real, that I watched that made me realize, oh wait, there's another side of me that I need to explore, and was brave enough to do it, just like Jaden has been brave enough and your family's been brave enough. You know, unfortunately, as grateful as I am to be an American and blessed to have the conveniences, that's always the words I use, to live in America, we are very, very behind in comparison to a lot of other countries. Yeah. Not everywhere in this world is a third world country, right? Like, that's what I think people who have never traveled, that's what they think. You're going to go to certain places besides Paris and London, and it's a third world country, and that's not how it is. Yeah. A lot of other beautiful places that are far more advanced than us.
Well, we're more than wieners and vaginas too. Like, what happens if your wiener gets cut off, like, in general? Like, are you no longer a man? Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. To Anita's point, like, we're made up of our minds and our souls and our hearts. Like, that's so much more important than what the hell is in our chonies. Like,
that is very important in certain situations, but not all the time.
Yeah, there was a documentary that Katie Court did. I don't remember the name, but it was something about, was it gender something, and it basically talked about how some people are born, you know, with both. Mm-hmm. And how, or just like some of the sciences behind, oh, if you're born and it's this big, then you're assigned male. Well, if it's this big, then we chop it off and then we give you female. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's so much that people don't know. And unfortunately, they don't want to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're just making decisions for these little humans that have yet to even express who they are. And it's just crazy. And I don't know, you guys might have a different opinion than me, but would you say it's fair, like, it's fair to say that we all, like, struggle with our own gender identity, like, throughout our lifetimes, right? Like, there's us feeling not woman enough, or us feeling not man enough, or masculine, femme. I mean, Stacey, we talked about this with Mark on his episode of, you know, him having to man up and not feeling man enough when he's going through mental health stuff. So it's like, it really is this, like, we all struggle with it, whether people want to talk about it or not. Everybody struggles with it. You think, you know, I grew up a tomboy. Stacey did too. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, we were in situations where we definitely were not girly enough for whatever was going on. And so I think
I've always felt that way. That's something I've dealt with my entire life. I'll never forget, I worked at a restaurant and I pissed this guy off because he was being a douche, and I called him out, and he was like, he called me a bull dyke. And I was like, I mean, is that supposed to be an insult? Because I don't really care. You know, but it's like, because I was brave enough to stand up to him and tell him, like, hey, your behavior is ridiculous. And I definitely didn't say it that eloquent. Like, he came for me. And I've heard that my whole life. People call me dude. It's like, you're a man, you blah, blah, blah. And it's like, none of those things offend me. You know, I wouldn't be ashamed if I was a man, but I'm a woman, and I'm a strong woman. That doesn't make me masculine. That makes me a strong woman, you know?
Yeah.
But people want to do that.
Like you were saying, Melissa, it's a spectrum. Mm-hmm. We're all on a spectrum. I don't think anybody can say, oh, I am this and that's it. No.
Yeah, you want to box yourself in, that's fine. Don't box everybody else in. That's not fair to do. I think gender evolves over time. The more I'm, like, learning about it, and I actually just started reading Sissy, a coming of gender story. I don't know if any of you have seen that yet. Stacey, I sent it to you.
You sent it to me, yeah.
I'm just in the beginning part of it, but there was a line in there that said, the line between healing self and healing the world begins to blur. And that just is, like, so powerful to me, because it's like, the more we just start healing ourselves and stop giving a flying frog what's happening around and everybody's opinions about who we are, and just live our own true authentic selves, people, the world around us will start healing too. And so I think we just need to focus on our own healing and share our stories. And there's so much power in that. And I think that the more we can do that, the more beautiful our world around us will start to look. As frustrated as we are with how it can look right now, and seem overwhelming, and that, you know, why people give half a turd what the hell someone else is doing is mind-boggling.
Real hard with the cursing.
We have a young man present. It doesn't make any sense. And so I think that, gender, it's not consistent. It changes over time. It's very much fluid. And I think that once we can recognize that and everyone can really recognize that about themselves and reflect on that for themselves, we'll start to see some big shifts around us. But it takes people like you, Jaden, and Anita, and families like you and Stacy and I to continue to have these conversations for it to be more normalized, because it should be normal.
Yeah.
We're humans. This is a human experience we're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard as a teacher. I used to say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go, ladies and gentlemen. And it's through my learning with Jaden and everything that, and the community, that I'm putting them in boxes now. And so like, I no longer say that at school. I'm just like, okay, people, let's go, because I don't want to do that to them either. So it's really hard. But when you educate yourself and you start seeing some of the places that you're using these terms, and you're realizing, oh wow, I'm just kind of perpetuating this cycle. As a teacher, I'm trying to be more open and just kind of change some of my own terminology so that they understand too. It's not just boys and girls. It's not just ladies and gentlemen. We're just people.
Yeah.
I always have to,
and I'm Anita. Like, why do we have to say you're a boy and you're a girl?
Yeah.
I still I have to check myself, and it's like breaking that pattern, but not saying you guys, right? And as I'm sending an email,
I've said it 40 times today.
So hard.
It's so
an email,
hard.
whatever it is, like I have to always try and correct myself and say you all, or you know what I mean? And so it's like a constant, like I have to be super conscious about that, because we spend our entire lives saying you guys and like dude and all the time. Like I probably will still say dude all the time.
Yeah.
But you guys is huge too. Stacey, sorry, you were gonna say something.
I think it's really cool as a teacher that you're able to identify that, because I do think that is sometimes a responsibility of our job. You as you a little more than me. I'm preschool special ed, so it's a little different. But for you, you have the, like I said in the beginning, middle school, like hats off to you just for that. But 7th and 8th grade is such an influenceable age, right? Like there's so many things I look back when I was that age, like I was just a straight up asshole, and I think that the fact that you're changing your terminology and setting that example for your students, like I love that. I wish more teachers would get on board.
Yeah, they're impressionable at this age. So I just want to show them that there are adults out there that care, that do listen.
Your students are lucky to have you.
You guys are both of you, just thank you for what you guys do, because Stacey, even though you have preschoolers, like they're so impressionable at that time, at that age too. So it's like you guys are really responsible for creating these safe spaces for people to be their authentic selves. And so you're welcoming them as whoever they are. And so I think that that's really amazing. And, we need more teachers like that. And I think that there's more coming on.
I think to keep going on that too, Anita, I don't know if you feel this way, but like, I felt this way at my last job too. There's only so much as a public school educator we can do. There's, when we start getting into what we've already, even just what we've seen with different like history that that should be taught, we're not allowed to. When it's like, I have to question myself when it's like, I love these shows from my age group that are showing two moms and different characters that are more representative of an inclusive America. And I have to really second guess, like, am I allowed to show this? Am I going to have a parent calling and screaming at me because they're devout Christians or Catholics? And then I really think it's like, why does somebody's organized religion have to affect the curriculum that I teach in my class? But unfortunately, as an educator, that is what we have to think about. Yeah.
The show Jazz that was on TLC or something like that? She made a book, and it's it's a picture book, and it's a little a little more geared towards younger kids, probably not middle school, but elementary kids. And I had to get permission from, the principal. I was like, hey, like, I want to read this to my class. And he's just like, well, if you want to do that, then you're going to have to send a letter out to the parents and get permission and all this other stuff. And I'm like, are you serious? But I did, because you know what? I'll go through the work. I'll go through the steps.
Yeah.
And none of the parents even said anything. They don't care. Most of the time, they're just like, read whatever. Especially in my particular area, it's more Hispanic. Like 98% of our students are Hispanic. So the parents don't even really understand. I mean, they probably might care if they knew what it was talking about, but nobody's brought back the permission slip saying, no, my kid can't listen to this.
Yeah.
It's
Would you rather them learn about it on social media, or there are content creators, like your experience was positive, but sometimes they're not positive. Sometimes people capitalize and use things in a negative, way. They don't always have positive intentions. So yeah, that kind of blows my mind when people are not interested in us, giving their children different options. If you teach core values in your families, whatever your morality rate is and all that, like, it shouldn't be an issue if your kids learn different things. That's my opinion.
Well, it might be that child might see themselves in that book. I can't even wrap my head around why this would even need a permission slip. We're talking about human beings, and these are real live experiences of people that are around us, living in this world with us, part of our own community. And like, how do people think that makes our community feel?
Yeah.
And you have to get a permission slip signed saying, hey, is it okay if I teach you about
movie?
Like, what the hell do you think is going to happen? And then just to go back to the bathroom thing for a second, because I just can't even, it blows my mind, like, the ignorance that people have to say, like, oh, well, what if, this trans man is going, or this trans woman is going into a woman's bathroom and is going to do whatever to these girls. Well, what the hell? Any adult can do that. You're telling me that there's not a grown man that has not gone into a bathroom and there's been a little boy in there? Like, that's the same situation.
Yeah. Depending on the situation, restaurant, bars, wherever I'm at, all bathrooms have been gender neutral for 20 years for me now.
Yeah.
I go in when I have to go to the restroom, I go to the restroom.
Yeah.
I don't wait outside because there's a man. I don't care.
Yeah. Same. It just, that's just like a small thing that needs to go away, like, completely.
It does.
At his elementary school, there were, once we talked with the principal before he had changed schools, and we met with the principal and we're like, he's going to use the boys' bathroom. The law says he can. He started to use the boys' bathroom, and there was, an incident where the boy was just like, you need to get out of here. You're not a boy. You shouldn't be in here. Like, just totally confronting Jaden in the bathroom. And he's just like,
And that's an elementary school.
It was an elementary school.
That behavior by his parents. Elementary school.
That's a parent issue. That's a learned behavior right there. Like,
I'm sorry, but I don't know about you guys. I don't have children, but I have been very conscious. This has been a reoccurring theme in my life, specifically in the past year. And Melissa and I have talked about this. I have been a lot more selective about who I will be around, who I'll bring people that I love around. And as an auntie to little ones, real little ones, who I'm very involved with, I'm selective about who I'll bring them around.
Yeah.
And I had a cousin tell me that forever ago. He told me, because him and his wife had their first son very young. He said, some of my closest friends, I'm not really close to anymore. Once you become a parent, you're more conscious of who you're around, because, you don't want to bring, if somebody's spouting off, this racist commentary or homophobic commentary, like, we have chosen not to raise our son that way. And we're not going to surround ourselves with people like that. When you're a single person only around, what as a single person now, and I've been around people who've made those comments in the past, I've been just turned a blind eye to them. Now I'm like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
I'm never going to sit back and just allow friends of friends to make comments when I have somebody with me. You know, if I'm dating somebody who's of a different ethnicity, or if I'm dating a woman, or if I'm dating somebody trans, and if you think that your people are going to make, you know, derogatory comments, and I'm going to sit back, that's just not going to happen anymore. It's that I'm hoping that day and time will die off, you know?
I think that that's a good thing to call out too, because me personally, that's something I've been working on. You know that I'm more shy and introverted, and it just boils my blood when people are just blatantly like ignorant. And sometimes people are just ignorant because that's how they were raised, and they're using really racist terms and misgendering and just being completely disrespectful to groups of people. And I find myself, and I gotta say thank you to you, Stacey, because I feel like you pulled this out of me too a little bit. But like I can't stay quiet anymore about it.
Yeah.
And I think I'm finding my voice a little bit more with like, you can't say that. It's not appropriate, and like somebody needs to call you out because that's not who you are. And that's if it's a person in our group or whoever it is, a family member, like I know that that's not who you are, but that is what you're looking like right now. You're looking,
you're representing when
you're representing racism, and this is part of the problem. So
yeah.
I think that we all just need to be a little bit more comfortable in calling that out, and I think we'll see it
And holding each other accountable, you know, because I do think, like Jaden, for you specifically, you know, being young, sometimes it's just taking yourself out of that situation. It's not worth the fight. You know, I know it may feel like that now, and I'm not saying maybe it's not, but I remember being your age and thinking, I'm going to be friends with these people forever. Not a single one of them, right? Except for my cousins, who I'm really lucky because a lot of my closest people growing up are my cousins. Cousins are a blessing. Like I wouldn't be who I am without my cousins today. But so I'm lucky in that way. But the friends that I had at 15, the friends I had at 17, the friends I had at 21, I would say 99% of those people are not in my life. So, you know, when you hold the people, when you get your core solid group and you hold them accountable, but you don't have to go out putting out fires, you know? Unfortunately, you won't be the main person who changes ignorance. I wish that was the case.
But I think just knowing who you are and who you're becoming, I think that you're going to be a trailblazer, and I think that you're going to be one of the individuals that you know, make some positive changes in this world. So I know that's a lot of pressure and we're putting on you, but we're counting on you.
We're the change the world wants to see.
So we can kind of, before we wrap up though, Jaden, can you talk a little bit about Camp Brave Trails? Because I want, I'll put a link in this video so that people can donate to it. And then for July and on, I wanted to create a candle for Brave Trails. So you can name it whatever. I'll create the scent, and then we'll donate Higher Love. I guess that's me. We Higher Love. We'll donate. We'll put it in our Poured with Purpose line. So can you tell us about Camp Brave Trails?
Yeah, so they are a inclusive camp for like trans people, basically like every member of the LGBT plus community. They can go there and they can be themselves there. And like the bathrooms there's no gendered bathrooms. The cabins aren't gendered. So everything just goes by like age. Like the cabins are like, 12 to 13, 13 to 14, like that. And so there's like it's like a place where you can be like truly you without any, not like consequences, but like without any discrimination.
I love that.
No shame, just being able to wake up in the morning and be your authentic self every single day. Which
awesome. Everybody there is part of that community, so you don't have to be afraid to be who you are. I follow them on Instagram, and one of the campers had posted, "Oh, one more week until I'm back home." And I'm just like, that breaks my heart to think that that's where they feel like they're at home. And I told Jaden, I said, "Is that how you feel? Like, please tell me you don't feel that way." And he's like, "No, I think it's more than that. It's just that it feels like home because, you know, if they don't have that acceptance at home, they have it there. But also, like, if you do have acceptance at home, it feels like home." But I'm just like, the fact that they can make individuals feel accepted, feel loved, feel like they can be whoever they want to be without worrying about being bullied or anything, is just, you know, a wonderful thing. And they do a lot of team building experiences and different activities to help build individuals who can later on go out and help teach others about this community. So it's not just about fun, and, you know, of course they go and they have fun, but it's also about helping to build individuals who are going to be those
Change makers.
yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's really,
awesome.
really cool.
So, is there anything before we end this that anybody wants to? Anything you want to end with, Jaden? Any last words?
Be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
So,
Simple and powerful.
yeah. Just, I know, Stacey, I'll speak for you. We're just both so super grateful for you both taking the time to talk to us today. And really, I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure Stacey feels the same. And I hope that every single day that you wake up, you know that you're loved, and there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with anybody that may be watching this. There's a broken system around you, and we're gonna fix it.
Yeah.
Love you guys
so much.
Nobody has a right to tell you how to feel, and nobody has a right to tell you who to be. And so, yeah, just do that. And don't tell anybody else how to be.
Exactly.
That's my whole thing is, yes, I might not agree with somebody, but I'm still going to remain my kind self. So that's one of the things that I'm proud about with Jaden, is even though not everybody is accepting with who he is or things that he may do, like, we still approach the situation with kindness in our heart and with understanding that, hey, we don't know what that person's been through, so we can't just be mean. We just have to accept that that's who they are. We'll let them know how we feel, but we can do it in a kind way. Because we don't know what that other person's going through. We don't know, you know, where they've been.
Yeah. Sometimes people's behavior has absolutely nothing to do with you.
Absolutely.
And I think that when you try to lead with that, and I struggle too, just like everybody, you know, Melissa definitely has to hear my moments that I'm away from, you know, my baseline, and I try to remember that and handle people with grace, and it's not easy.
No, it's not always easy. I think being a teacher helps. Gives me a lot of opportunities.
Definitely giving me some patience, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You in check or you lose your job. All right. Well, thank you all so much, and I appreciate you, and we love you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being so vulnerable.
Yep.
Yeah, and thank you for putting that link down there, because they do scholarships with Brave Trails for individuals who can't afford. So, you know, giving us individuals, kids, teenagers, that opportunity to experience that it's life-changing for them.
When are you going to camp? What's the timeline on that?
Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this Sunday?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay, cool.
So, Anita, can you also text me the gender clinics info? I'd like to put that in the link too, just so if anybody is interested in that information as well. That's all we have. Thank you. And we'll leave with Jaden's wise words of just be you. Love you.
Bye.
A beautiful mess.